So I think in order for this whole build series to make sense, we have to give a little back history about the car. In 2018, I was a senior in high school and I ended up browsing Facebook Marketplace in my math class. I found this blue Trans Am for sale. The ad didn't list much, but the car had no engine or transmission and was covered in dust. One of the things that stood out was the beautiful blue metallic color that I'd never seen before. The only problem was that the car was all the way in South Dakota, on the border of North Dakota really, which is about a 21-hour drive on a good day. So I did what every high schooler who wanted a car that they probably had no business buying while making a minimum wage would do, and I decided to buy it anyway. When I got there, the car was actually in pretty decent shape. It had been in a barn its whole life, or at least the majority of it, and that's the main reason why it stuck out to me. It was very dusty with writing on it basically saying "wash me" because it had just been neglected for so long. We drug it out of the barn and loaded it up on the trailer, and then decided to drive it back across the country. I originally thought it would take me about a month to get it running, like everyone assumes building their first project car, but it ended up taking a few months. I put it all together and got it running and driving. Only for the harmonic balancer bolt to end up snapping in the crank. When I mean running and driving, the car drove down the street and sounded great, had amazing oil pressure, but at the end of the day, the manufacturer blamed it on a bolt defect, but with no way to remove it without pulling the entire engine, the car had to get ripped back apart. To better the situation, they offered me a replacement bolt, which I was really less than impressed with at the time. I ended up just throwing it away, how mad I was at the time period, but things happen. So the car sat some time. I ended up selling the 6.0 LQ9 and putting in an aluminum 5.3 and 7875 turbo. That was a big thing at the time, going turbo, but I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that I wanted to go fast. And to me, that was an amazing combination. I drove it for a while until the engine ended up spinning some rod bearings and it was down again for some time. I swapped in another 6.0, but it was too big of an engine for the turbo size, so I decided to upgrade to a nicer turbo kit, nicer engine, nicer everything. So I put on a Huron Speed V3 kit with an 8096 turbo, and this time I was saying I wanted to do right, make 1,000 wheel horsepower with AC. It was a great looking combo in theory, but I ended up swapping the motor in my driveway. The neighbors hated that, but the car made like 700 wheel horsepower, which, don't get me wrong, was a lot for a teenager, but it wasn't the 1,000 horsepower I was hoping for. We couldn't figure out why it only made 700. The car had a couple intermittent electrical issues, and the car was just breaking up and it didn't make any sense. At that point, I just decided to enjoy the car for a little bit. It just wasn't what I was looking for. I was really close to just selling the whole car, took pictures of it, made a Facebook listing, but before I can click post, I just couldn't do it. I saved it as a draft. I had so much history in the car, and a lot of people knew me from it, and I had taken it everywhere. I drove it back and forth to the pool during the summer being a lifeguard, and I just had way too many memories. So one day after work, I just decided to rip it all apart, but I kept the shell and agreed to myself that one day when I have the time and money, I'm going to build it right. So the car sat outside my driveway for a while. It ended up getting beat up by the Texas heat, and in the end, I was able to store it in a garage for about half a year or so, but that brings us up to current day. I've had my C5Z, twin turbo that car, did the whole build series, built the C6Z, and then built my truck. But the one car that was always elusive to me and was a what if has been my Trans Am. I've just owned it for so long, I figured, hey, I've learned so much over these years, what if I redid this car with what I know now? How would it turn out? So I sold my truck at the end of last year and decided to use some of that spare change and build the car I've always wanted. So once the car got back to Houston, I wasted no time in ripping it apart. The first order of business was unloading the car and cleaning up the engine bay. This was one of the main things that bothered me before, so this time around I wanted to tuck the engine bay harness and tuck the radiator. In order to do this, the core support needed to be cut, and then after that, we needed to prep the whole entire engine bay and get everything painted. So here's that process. with that, this wraps up the first videos in the series. The next few videos will be pretty fast paced and they're already filmed. So we'll be building the engine, showing the new transmission, and getting everything installed. Thanks for watching.